GM Farcaster. It is Tuesday. I'm not used to saying that. December 19th, and we are here with Adrian and Nounish Prof, bringing you 21 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day, and a very special guest, Dan Romero, one of the founders of Farcaster, is here with us. Welcome, Dan, to our crazy morning show that we just permissionlessly launched on your sufficiently decentralized network. How are you
Thanks for
doing?
having me.
We're
Yeah,
glad
thanks
you're
for having
here.
me.
And Adrian, I'm looking at your background. Is that your actual wood stove?
No, yeah,
Like a
this is a
picture of
picture.
your
Is
actual.
a picture. Yes, GM lost power yesterday. Casted this photo of my wood burning stove that kept me cozy. People liked it.
And then
Now
I
it's my background.
decided to try and match with you with my fake wood stove because obviously I do not have one in Florida.
And just to be clear, this background is fake. I'm sitting in a spare bedroom at my parents' house.
So we generally go with some kind of background, Dan, just so you know. Usually it's a meme of some sort. But today we're going with Adrian Lost Power meme. Okay. We're gonna start with our regular type of show for our regular chatters who are with us. We're going to start off with that and then switch over to a little AMA with Dan. So first up, we've got Farcaster Wrapped 2023 NFTs are available, commemorative NFT for all the people who contributed to Farcaster Protocol in 2023. And I got mine. It was really cute. You can see mine. I had 9,264 minutes spent casting. And then my longest streak was 106, which was interesting because that was also not Doovies, but DWRs, and also Corellas. So then we started to notice a little pattern. So Oxen went, you might have a bug. And yes, it was a bug. But now we have Club 106. So it was a bug. It has been fixed. He is airdropping to those who minted already and got an incorrect number there, but Club 106 will live forever. So there we go. Adrian,
well, I didn't know that, but between farts and Wrapped, everyone's building in public this week. Good job, everybody.
I know. Fixing
I
the
tried
bugs.
to mint. I did try to mint. I almost didn't want to because I don't want to see. I know how much time. And by the way, and this is from Fun Welter.
Yes. Yeah.
Who also did Hatecast.
Oh, that's right.
And I got to say, I'm a fan of the positive casting. So I wanted to mint. I had some trouble with wallet issues. I'm going to.
I also, I had this moment where I was like, where am I minting this? I had a moment where I gave a little pause and then I realized when it was charging 0.000777 that it was somehow connected with Zora. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right, that's fine then. Dan, what did you think about the Wrapped NFTs? What did you think of your time spent on Morphcast?
I minted one. I think it was undercounting the amount of time I spent casting this year. But at first I was like, "What? This seems high," and then I kind of did the math, and I was like, "Oh,
it seems low."
Yeah, it might be low.
The one when I saw that I had 106 and you had 106, I'm like, that part's got to be wrong. Like, he has to have a longer streak than I do. But that was C. Corella's point too. For my mental health, someone post higher numbers. So Adrian, to your point,
I got you, C. Corella. I'm coming for you.
Chris would love it if you could post some higher numbers.
I want to say I don't think I missed a day this year, but I
can't imagine you did.
Yeah,
like,
we'll see. Sometimes Sundays, kids you get to a point where you might have missed. You check it, but you forget to actually cast.
That's true. So. That's true. And I wonder. I don't know if is it tracking casts and replies, and that I'm not sure about because there are plenty of times when I haven't casted, but I've replied to stuff. And then Dwoofy, of course, reply guy, supreme. So I'm like, he probably hasn't missed a day either. So therefore, it might not be counting replies. We'll have to double check on that. Moving on, we've got I minted today the first NFT on Warpcast with warps that did not come direct from Merkle Manufactory. So GM Builders, wondering what we've been up to this last year. Here's the answer. The first year of Nouns Builder in 101 seconds. Sound up and stay tuned for more in the new year. And you can mint that with warps. So that was my exciting thing. So I was telling you, Dan, this morning. So you mentioned something that I didn't realize. If you can say which ones can be minted on warps if you're creating them yourselves. Does it have to be? It has to be Zora and ZoraNet. Is that correct?
Yeah. So right now I think it's Zora only on Zora's chain. Jacob would be mad if I call it anything other than Zora. But I think we have plans to add Base and a couple of other chains, and then hopefully other platforms. So the goal is to make warps extremely useful. I'm going to repeat this 1,000 times. Warps don't fluctuate in value. They're not an investment. They are strictly used to make things more convenient on chain within the app that are kind of benefiting the Farcaster ecosystem. Adding Farcaster apps, we call that, technically that's called adding a signer, but installing Supercast, for example, you can use warps. We're going to have it so that you can pay for storage next year when everyone has to pay for storage who got a free account in September. That will be with warps. You could do that today when you invite someone with warps. So the goal is warps are meant to be used. There are no benefits to hoarding them. And so we want to continue to add functionality to making warps really useful.
I'm gifting them left and right, and I'm also getting them from people left and right, like out of the blue for no reason, which I love. I think that's amazing because then it inspires me to do the same. So I know, Adrian, you've seen that too. I think you got, and then they're coming from like unexpected places of people that I don't really know that well too, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, Dan, are you seeing all the gift activity?
Yes, we have that. I don't think anyone's looked at it. Like we just have.
Are you? But even on just the way people are talking about it, are you surprised to see?
I don't know
how
if
much
I'd say
gifting is happening.
Surprised. I'm happy people are excited about it. I think if I was to model how I expected it to go, it's probably down the middle of where things are, in the sense that I think the people on Farcaster tend to be pretty kind, at least the early group of people. And we're still pretty early, so basically everyone. And so naturally, when you give them the ability to send a little gift, people use that. And so I think that, and I think the cast of appreciation, I like that. I think just thinking about how we can make that a little bit easier from a product standpoint. So you can imagine, you get the gift. There hopefully is a reason at some point, if someone chooses to have that, and then the ability for you to either DM them or thank them publicly or something like that. You can make that like cool. One tap. Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, because I was thinking that the other day. I'm like, I really would love to just be able to cast this and say thanks, and thank them publicly very easily instead of having to do it a couple different ways. But I think that's awesome. I love that we're using warps. I think it's great. And my first thing when you came out with warps, and she was joking about this the other day, was that I was like, I can't wait to gift them to our audience. Was the first thing I said before we could even do it. So that was the first thing I was thinking about.
Well, quick news. I was going to say quick news. Yesterday, in the beginning of the day, Riley Beans casted that she wanted to host a community channel. Perfect. Didn't have enough warps. And I was like, okay, by the end of the day, I guarantee you're going to have enough warps. And 20-some people gifted warps. And
that was my next
by the end of the day.
That was my next cast.
It existed. It's just, it's beautiful. By the way, real quick before we go, Dan, when you're talking about Zora, is it an app? What, I don't know. Zora, the company, the platform, protocol. And Zora, the chain. I'm old enough to remember when Warpcast was called Farcaster, and the friction of do not change the name, and you decided to. So maybe you can give Jacob some advice on. It's not too late.
Yeah, I just think it should be ZoraNet or Zora Chain, like just very simple to delineate between, because there's the company, there's the platform, there's the like all that. Yeah. It's interesting that the name change, I think I've kind of waffled back and forth on now, in the sense that when we did it, we had always planned to do it. I think it was good for developers, but it's bad for consumers. It makes it more confusing, right? Like, what is Farcaster versus Warpcast? Like, I thought the email analogy is really easy. It's like, oh, email, Gmail, it doesn't matter. So I think that there's a version of the world where we didn't change the name early on, and we kept it the same, and you hit some amount of product market fit or scale, and then you do a rebrand, and it's painful like then, because obviously more people know it, but but you kind of like really manage through that. But then the idea is that you simplify the concept of Farcaster for people. Is Farcaster is a social network. It has an app, but the itself is a protocol. Like, so for the developer, they know, okay, hubs exist. It is permissionless. I can actually fork it, all this other kind of stuff. And I think we maybe made the mistake there of adding some consumer confusion at the benefit of being like explicitly clear with developers. So, you do make mistakes sometimes, in the sense that I think long term it should have always been separate, but the timing might have been a little premature.
I can see that, yeah. But I also think we're adapting pretty easily, and I've noticed that in a few different things that you all have done, that I've even been more adaptable um, as time goes on. So the switching of the buttons is a great example. The cast versus undo was seriously messed up, but I was only seriously messed up for like 2 days. So I did adjust finally. And I think that was everybody. So I think there's some of that like, and this just takes a little bit longer time to adjust. But I think putting warps into it, now it's like, okay, now you can't change Warpcast back to Farcaster because now you got warps and they won't make sense. And it's definitely better than farts is what I will say. So I'm kind of glad you went with Warpcast and warps. So it works better.
People are more adaptable than they think, especially if they have a community of people they're excited about interacting with. So I think I love when I see the threats of I am no longer using Farcaster because of X, or I'm going not, and then give them like 2 weeks and then they come back tail between their legs, because they actually are there for the people, not the features.
That's incredibly true. So that's the part that I think we have to be a little more aware of, is that we need to make sure we're protecting the vibes a little bit, and that's hard to do. So I don't know that it's sometimes it's features, but sometimes I think it's more like vibes shifting and people get a little bit like, okay, I'm going to go spend more time over here or something like that. I'll be back. I'll be back. I wanted to go back to your, you mentioned Riley Beans. I just wanted to read this cast. Riley Beans, I would create a community channel, but don't have enough warps. Farcaster needs more community education, care, presence for community builders. Since the creation of so many channels, it's great to have builders and devs and degens, but without community, it's just chaos. And like you mentioned, the warps started flying in, and she had enough to launch that. And I even sent some after she had enough. I was like, here, you probably depleted your warps. Here you go. But I thought that was amazing. A little crowdfunding happening via warps. And one more mention before we shift over to our little interview, because I have to mention this, Adrian. There's a new channel. I don't know if you're aware, but it's called Farcast Him.
Yes, there is a Farcast Him.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no way I could not mention this today. GM,
and you'll never guess. You will never guess if I give you 100 guesses who created it.
I know, you'd never guess. I'm showing it on the screen. It was Voronach, GM, the fellow men of Farcaster. Let's discuss all the things we men usually discuss, which became Kristen, I will invade your safe space. Meat is good for you. Grunt, many such things. HDMI cables, I'd like a bag of them. I thought that was good. Therapy is a racket, and it just, went on from there. So Adrian, I have to get your thoughts on this. What were your thoughts on?
Love it. I joined the channel.
I sent him warps.
Guys, have your safe space.
I sent him warps in a DM, like, very good. I thought it was fantastic, actually. So if you were trying to upset the feminists, didn't work.
Can't do
We're
it.
on board. We're on board. We can't be upset.
Let me know how I can help.
We're
number one ally. I'm your ally.
We don't get offended. Gen X doesn't get offended.
That's
Sorry.
Right.
All right, Adrian, we've got to switch over to our very, very brief lightning round interview with Dan. And the first question is, how was the mole?
Mole is great. So the backstory on the mole is we have a lovely woman who helps us with our kids, and she is from Mexico and makes a bunch of homemade Mexican food. And so, maybe it didn't photograph well, or my angle was bad, but like, I don't know if you've ever had mole, like whether, it's like a darker color or the green mole. It's unbelievable. It takes any meat and turns it into something delicious.
It may not look good, but I bet it tasted amazing.
Yeah,
It was fun.
It's unbelievable. So,
All right.
you know, sometimes you put stuff out and you get memed, and maybe I get memed a little more than the average person, which is fine. But yeah,
By the way,
I
you
think
take that very well and you roll with it very well and kind of run with it sometimes too. And that I think is a very big positive to what you're doing. Like I think it really helps to and let things roll off your back that maybe, sometimes might be a little tough, I would assume.
well, I think what I would say is I grew up, I'm one of four boys. And so
Ah,
in my family, if there's a little bit of an opportunity to get you, it immediately happens, and then everyone piles on. So I'm kind of well trained in the handling a teasing internet mob. If you show signs of letting it get to you, you get even more relentlessly teased. So
don't show
you
weakness.
adapt pretty quickly to the best way to handle is to run with it. And then at that point, you just start to realize it's actually kind of fun if you play with it.
Yeah,
So
it definitely is. I think it can add a lot of value. Actually, the memes are what we talk about most on the show, flat out.
Dan, are your brothers on Farcaster?
Ooh, good
they
question.
are. Goose is on Farcaster, and then the other two are not as active, but they lurk. Yeah.
Nice.
Adrian, it's all you
So-
now. Go lightning
All right,
round.
we've got 4 minutes.
Yeah, we can go a
Long.
little longer as long as you guys want to keep going.
Yeah, we can go a smidge longer on this one.
What we always
Not
do.
too long,
But
but
we
we
try
don't
not
go
to.
much longer.
Our brand is 21 minutes, so we gotta can't stray too far. Dan, I wanted to hear about your earliest experience with social media. So, like, what was?
Ooh.
So I was into blogging in high school. So kind of like played around with all the early blogging software. Movable type. I don't know if you guys ever used
Yeah.
that. Like required like a CGI bin and all that kind of stuff. So that was
Wow.
a kind of like fun experience. But I think like social media, as we think about it, the very clear memory I have is as soon as I got into college, and then I got the .edu email address the summer between kind of senior year of high school and freshman year of college. Um, it was 2006, so I was able to sign up for Facebook because Facebook was still
Ooh.
gated by .edu email addresses. And it's kind of interesting because there's actually a lot of similarity to Farcaster today. Is Facebook at that time, obviously people weren't sophisticated about social media. People would put a ton of information into their Facebook, and people were like making friendships like lightweight, like setting it up for showing up freshman year on Facebook that summer. It's like you could see what classes people were taking, you could throw a bunch of tagged interests in, and so you got into a place where I met my future college roommate for the next 3 years, not the freshman year, on Facebook that summer. And
Oh
so
wow.
in some ways, like kind of this like internet stranger thing is kind of what Farcaster is actually early days of Facebook. So that definitely was my kind of like first memorable experience with social media.
And that was actually, that was my next question: is when did you make your first internet friend? Sounds like college roommate through Facebook.
Yeah, and
Like
then
internet
I
first.
was on Twitter. It's actually funny. I signed up for Twitter the year it came out with
That
like
was
a
one of my
kind of
questions. That was one of my questions. I'm like, weird question, but how in the world did he get DWR on Twitter?
well,
That had
what's
to be
interesting
really early.
is I signed up with my internet handle, which was like some made up word that I'd been using. And then I was like, you know what? I should probably just like get actually my friend had a 3-letter handle. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna create another account. And so DWR is actually my second Twitter account. I
Wow.
don't even know what happened to the first one. But if you look, I think my sign up date, I don't know if they still publicly show this, is like March 2007, or maybe it was like fall of 2007 for DWR. But the original one was within like the first, I want to say like 10,000 people on Twitter.
Wow.
I'm like 1987, user 1987 on Instagram. I have DWR. So like I've been pretty successful in a lot of these like, Gen 1 social networks of getting good usernames.
Really early. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a
That's
good
awesome.
username on Twitter. It's DWR Romero. So
Right.
That works.
It's DWR. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
same as your Farcaster. So I was like, how?
Yeah.
How did you get that?
Well, that's actually it's funny, when we went to go do stuff for Farcaster, we were going to use DNS, and then I was like, wait a second, I can't register DWR. Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not going to be another, that's like my internet handle. And then halfway through, they finally released the 3-letter names. I was able to register it. So that's why I go by wwr.eth now. But yeah, like it's for me, it's actually pretty important. I think actually the reveal preferences, most people don't care about usernames, but like there's a certain group of people that really, really do. And I'm definitely one of those people.
So one thing Farcaster taught me this year, which I love, and Dan, one of the, you can take credit for this or we can all take credit for it, but the norm of like, it's okay to not know, right? So you don't have, so one of the things I learned over the last year is that there's status in these short usernames. Had no idea that 3 letters or this. And even when I signed up for ENS and I was like, oh, didn't even understand why you would charge more for shorter names. So learned a little bit about that, but
yeah, there's some people on Farcaster who are trying to make low FIDs a thing. And I'm like a little less like, because the reality is FIDs aren't presented in the UI. And, there are a bunch of people I onboarded early on who kind of churned. And so it's not like that they have high status because of the low FID. If anything, it's like kind of embarrassing. It's like I onboarded you in the first 100 people and you didn't log in for the next 3 years.
Well, when you talked about when people say, oh, I don't like the new vibe of Farcaster, and you said, oh, opportunity to make a new client. And, the truth is we already have that. I can go to Telegram with my group chat. I don't think people, the group chat is nice, but it's the status. It's like I'm early and you can't get in. So we're all, and I'm not going to say I'm not immune to this either. So, but the
reason I say new client is the way I would frame it is it doesn't have to be like a full-blown app. It could be a feature for another client. But like here's a simple example. Like Supercast has lists. We don't have lists on Warpcast. You could very easily create a kind of experience where it's like, I only want to see people from this cohort of Farcaster. And you could just flip between that. So I think if it's like people are like, oh, I can't find my old friends, like that I push back on a little bit. It's like maybe unfollow some people, like, but I think the reality on all of this is people don't they don't want to do work. And so, we had this whole mute thing this week about channels or like all this. And I think I'm the sales guy and Varun is like the level-headed one. So the sales guy is always wanting to please people. And I'm like, oh, well, we can just do this quick feature and then everyone will be happy. But the reality with that
I'm pushing
is,
back on that. I'm pushing back on this, Dan. You do not want to please us.
Like then you just have all these extra features. You can't take them away. And I think Varun's inclination is correct. So that's why we're doing it, is let the problem bake a little bit, assuming it's not existential, assuming like people just literally all stop using the app. And then once you have a sense for what the shape of the problem is, build the feature that is the default that gets like 80 to 90% of the way there for most people. And so it's just like, don't make people do work. And so that's our kind of like philosophy on a lot of that.
Someone just said, Monkey Link said, new feature, 10% happy, 10% angry, 80% indifferent. I was like,
that, but it's 100% true. It's you have a very vocal minority of people who are either extremely excited about a feature or not. And then everyone else is just like, man, I don't care.
By the way, Adrian, we're getting some non-fungible clips, and your the Supercast mention just got clipped. I'm assuming by Woj.
Yes.
And is Woj here? Is he in the stream? Woj just gifted me 100 warps. Thank you, buddy. I love you.
I think he is. I think he might be. I think he might be hiding in there.
Oh my God! Remember ice cream?
Yeah. Oh God. Adrian.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Woj. Okay.
All right. Maybe last question, and then
yeah, we gotta wrap.
Let's wrap up. I'm just gonna do a few quick lightning things, and we're wrapping it. Dan, favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Morning
and then
person
4th of July.
Oh, all right. Very patriotic. Yeah. Morning person or night owl?
Ideal is morning person. Right now, I'm just a work and sleep because of kids type of person.
Yep. Next country on your list you want to visit?
Good question.
I have not been to Brazil, and I've been to a lot of countries, so I'd like to visit Brazil.
Very nounish, by the way. Very nounish. Go see the Noggles in the skate park.
Completionist, yes or no?
Absolutely
not. Go to a concert or sporting event?
Read a book.
Nerd. Okay.
Yeah.
If you were to write a book, sorry. Okay. If you were to write a book, what's it about?
History of civilization.
Okay. Ambitious. Last question. When video? I'm teasing.
2024. You can hold me to it. You know.
Oh,
I really thought the answer was going to be never.
That could be December 31st, 2024.
We've got a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Varun right now. Varun is on a 20-hour flight to India, and salesperson is on a live stream promising features.
Future self next December is not going to be happy, but yes, I'm promising video by end of 2024.
Salesperson promising features while the CTO is on a flight. Classic. A story that's been written. All right, let's wrap.
Thank you, Dan, so much. By the way, this. Okay, the chat. Thank you to the chatters. We love you so much, and it's been really amusing. I know we haven't been watching it, but they're now putting in. I'm putting in. They're basically holding you to it. We're just doing the flashing things. It was really funny. Anyway, thank you so much. This has been amazing. We'll be back on Thursday this week instead of Friday. A little adjustment for the holidays. And with your usual 21 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day. And thank you, Dan, so much for being here with us. We will see you all Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.